World War II Battle Royale. World War II Battle Royale. Let's find out who would have won in a very different world. First nation to go is Romania. Alright, I see that Hungary's off to a great start. While they're working towards undoing the Treaty of Trianon, the Soviets have recaptured Bessarabia. It seems like them having the world's #1 home ownership rate couldn't save them. Next place eliminated is Manchuria. We just started and Japan has already lost their puppet state in China. Let's just hope they don't think about attacking a certain harbor anytime soon. Finally, last place eliminated is Colombia. They're home to the world's tallest palm trees, the wax palm. Located in the Los Nevados National Park, these massive trees grow up to 200 feet. And which nation do you think will win? World War II Battle Royale. First eliminated this time is Canada. Well, I see the world's largest producer of maple syrup didn't last too long. That fact isn't that surprising, but what is surprising is that 92% of that is from Quebec alone. At least this is good news for the Americans who've now manifested their destiny to the north. Next out is Liechtenstein. Okay, now this is a tragedy. How are we supposed to go on now without the world's largest exporter of false teeth? And finally, last out is Danzig. Believe it or not, this was actually its own thing in the 1920s and 30s. It was officially known as the Free City of Danzig, and it was here where the first shots of World War II were fired. And which nations do you not want to win? World War II Battle Royale. Today, first out is Siam, or as it's more commonly known as today, Thailand. They were in fact the only nation in Southeast Asia to avoid colonization by Europeans. This is partially because they acted as a buffer state between the British and French colonies in the region. Next place out is the Dutch East Indies. Speaking of European colonies in Southeast Asia, I'm honestly still baffled at how the Dutch managed to take control of an area the length of continental Europe while at the same time barely being able to stay above sea level. And last to go is Venezuela. Though there aren't many fun facts about Venezuela as of lately, they do have one thing, and that's being home to everyone's favorite 150-pound rodent, the capybara. And which nation do you think will win? World War II Battle Royale. First to go today is Liberia. Because they were founded by freed American slaves, their flag is very similar to that of the US. It has only 1 star and 11 stripes, each of them representing one of the signatures of the Liberian Declaration of Independence. Next eliminated is the Soviet Union. It seems like Operation Barbarossa came a little early this time around. My favorite Soviet fact is that back in 1989, in exchange for Pepsi increasing production in the country, they gave them a frigate cruiser and 17 submarines. They gave them so many ships, in fact, that after the deal, Pepsi had the world's 6th largest navy. And last out is Mongolia. And just when the Mongols started getting back on their feet, they're already out. But at the very least, this means that the great Tanutuva continues to expand. And who do you think will win? World War II Battle Royale. To begin, first out is Finland. They're widely known for being the happiest country in the world, but they also have the most per capita metal bands and highest per capita milk consumption. Coincidence? I think not. Next to go is Mexico. Wow, the wheel has been very patriotic lately. First Canada gets out and now Mexico is eliminated as well. Very interesting. Finally, last to go is Norway. I think Norway is like honestly my favorite country. Sure, they're near the top in almost every positive metric, but they also made a penguin the colonel-in-chief of the Norwegian King's Guard. And which places do you not want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First out is Bulgaria. It's here in Bulgaria where the early Cyrillic alphabet was largely developed. I'm sure they're very glad to be back in Turkish hands. Next place eliminated is Greece. Okay, I guess we're just remaking the Ottoman Empire at this point. And despite being closely associated with it, they're actually only the 5th largest producer of olives. Finally, last to go is the United Kingdom. They controlled the largest empire in history, and it's not even close. Having owned 4 million square miles more than the Mongols, at their height, they ruled over 1/4 of Earth's land area. Britain had a good run, but it's high time that the sun finally set on their empire. And which places do you want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First eliminated is Afghanistan. They're well known for being the world's largest producer of the opium poppy plant, but likely not for much longer. Soon after the Taliban regained power, they banned all cultivation of it, meaning output will likely crash in the coming years. Next to go is Brazil. They were the last country in the Americas to abolish slavery, only being outlawed in 1888. Speaking of slavery, there's a city in Brazil where many former Confederates immigrated to after the Civil War, known as Americana. One of the first Confederates to arrive in the city was William Hutchinson Norris, a former Alabama state senator. Finally, last out is Czechoslovakia. Looks like appeasement for Germany has begun, starting with the Sudetenland. Like the great Neville Chamberlain once said, peace peace for our time. Anyways, who do you want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First to go is Japan. It appears the land of the rising sun has set. But don't worry, 2 new suns took its place in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Next to be eliminated is China. While Japan was getting out, they made sure to take China with them. With 1.4 billion people, they're the most populated nation, but not for long. At least according to the UN, India could surpass China as soon as next year in 2023. Finally, last out is Denmark. Like, I know a lot of people like to give France flack for their performance in World War II, but it was leaps and bounds better than Denmark. Lasting approximately 6 hours, Germany's invasion of mainland Denmark was one of the war's shortest operations. As which nations are you hoping will get out? World War II Battle Royale. First place eliminated is Costa Rica. Despite being smaller than West Virginia, Costa Rica contains roughly 5% of Earth's biodiversity. With around 25% of their land being designated national parks or reserves, they're a great place to visit for those who like nature. Next out today is the United States. They're either the 3rd or 4th largest nation depending on how you measure it. Because of territorial waters, America is either 3rd or 4th, but if we go only by total area of dry land, then China's bigger. If we measure all countries by dry land though, then the USA would actually be bigger than Canada, making them the 3rd largest. Finally, last out is Latvia. They have one of the oldest flags of any modern nation, with its design having been first used as early as the 13th century. It was first described in the medieval book Rime Chronicles Livonia, telling of its use in a battle in northern Latvia. Now, who are you hoping will win? World War II Battle Royale. First place out is France. Well, at least the wheel's historically accurate. They're home to the Mona Lisa, Tour de France, and the oldest verified person to have ever lived. Jeanne Calment died at the age of 122 in 1997, meaning she was almost able to live in 3 different centuries. Next to go is Nepal. Of course, you can't talk about Nepal without talking about Mount Everest. Even at an imposing 29,032 feet, the mountain is still increasing in altitude at around 4 millimeters each year. Finally, last to get out is Hungary. Most know that their capital Budapest was formed after the merge of Buda and Pest, but did you know there was a third? Along with the cities of Buda and Pest, the town of Óbuda, meaning Old Buda, joined as well to form the city. And which places do you want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First place to go is Australia. They're the only country to have built a 3,488-mile long fence to keep a single species of 25-pound dogs away from the country's fertile regions. They're also the only country to have lost the war against 5.5 feet tall, 80-pound birds. Next place out is Germany. Well, I suppose this is the end for everyone's favorite Austrian painter. Even though the mustache man was one of, if not the most evil person to have ever lived, he was actually a pretty decent painter. Don't feel too safe though, Argentina's not out just yet. And last eliminated is Egypt. Am I the only person who thought the bricks they used to build the pyramids were relatively small? Because these things are massive. These things are like a whole 1.5 meters tall and weigh around 3 tons. And which places are you reading for? World War II Battle Royale. First place out is Estonia. According to a poll conducted by Pew Research, Estonia is the least religious country in Europe. Only 7% of Estonians are quote-unquote highly religious, and only 10% report attending worship services at least once a month. Next nation eliminated is Panama. Though they do have their own currency as well, they're also one of the few countries to use the US dollar as a legal tender. It first came into official use in 1904, coinciding with the start of American construction of the Panama Canal. Finally, last place out is Luxembourg. Despite popular belief, Luxembourg technically isn't considered a microstate. Don't let that deceive you though, they're still only around the 169th largest nation worldwide. Anyways, which places are you hoping will win? World War II Battle Royale. First place out is the Philippines. Well, if the US wasn't out already, now they definitely are. Though they got the Philippines as a result of the war, America did technically pay Spain $20 million for it. Next to be eliminated is Vanuatu. Though they were annexed by the Soviet Union in 1944, they still kind of exist today. Known as the Tuva Republic today, they're one of Russia's least populated federal subjects. And last out today is Vatican City. Most know that Switzerland was never occupied in World War II, but surprisingly the Vatican falls into that category as well. Though they weren't completely spared from it, as they were bombed a total of 2 times. And which places do you want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First place eliminated today is the British Raj. The partition of India was one of the peak examples of Britain just drawing lines and hoping for the best. The borders were drawn in only 5 weeks, mostly on religious lines between Hindus and Muslims. These borders created one of the largest refugee crises in history, as millions of Hindus and Muslims moved to either India or Pakistan. Next place to go is the Dominican Republic. Somewhat surprisingly, the Dominican Republic is the only country to have a Bible displayed on their flag. Pretty much both Americas, Oceania, most of Europe, and half of Africa are Christian majority, yet somehow they're the only ones. Finally, last out is Yugoslavia. Well, no surprise surprises here. Surely they won't devolve into multiple years-long wars leading to the deaths of over 100,000 people. As which places do you want to get out? World War II Battle Royale. First to go this time is French Indochina. Vietnam had one of the roughest transitions to independence of any former European colony. Not only did they have to fight the French for 8 years, but then South Vietnam and the Americans as well for an additional 20 years. Next place to go is Monaco. Though many claim their flag is identical to Indonesia's, that's not actually true. You see, Indonesia's flag has an aspect ratio of 2:3 while Monaco's is 4:5. And finally, last out is Saudi Arabia. Though they're closely associated with today, oil wasn't actually discovered here until 1938. And as the home of Mecca, they receive an average of 2.5 million pilgrims to the holy site every year. And which places do you want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First nation out today is New Zealand. They're well known for being the film site of The Lord of the Rings and the first nation to allow women to vote. But perhaps somewhat surprisingly, they also have one of the highest sheep-to-people ratios at around 5:1. Next place eliminated is Ireland. Ireland is one of the few places to be able to say they have 0 native species of snakes. Interestingly enough, New Zealand is also one of the few nations where this holds true as well. And finally, last place out is Chile. Their flag and Texas's are often confused, so the question is, which one came first? Though there were a few designs used before, Chile's modern flag design was adopted in 1817, 22 years before Texas adopted theirs. Anyways, which places do you not want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First place out is Bolivia. They're the owners of Salar de Uyuni, the largest salt flat in the world. And despite being one of 2 landlocked nations in South America, they do still actually have a navy. Next nation to go is Spain. In Spain and many other Spanish-speaking nations, children don't have their teeth taken by the tooth fairy. Instead, it's taken by Ratoncito Perez, a mouse with a strange fascination with teeth. Last place to go is Bhutan. Being a famously isolated country in the middle of the Himalayas, it's unsurprising that they have the tallest unclimbed mountain. At almost 25,000 feet, Gangkhar Puensum has never in its recorded history been summited by humans. Anyways, which places do you want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First place eliminated is Guatemala. They lay claim to Tajumulco, the tallest volcano in Central America. Their currency, the Quetzal, is also named after their national bird, the resplendent Quetzal. Next nation to get out is Poland. Around 80 to 90% of their capital, Warsaw, was destroyed from the damage caused in World War II. In fact, much of what's now the city's old town was restored during a 5-year reconstruction campaign after the war's end. Finally, last out is Lithuania. Strangely, they're the only country to have an official national scent. And for such a small country, they're surprisingly good at basketball. And which places are you hoping to win? World War II Battle Royale. First place out is Tibet. The Tibetan Plateau is one of Earth's most distinctive features. Also known as the roof of the world, it's Earth's largest plateau and has an average elevation of 4,000 meters above sea level. Next place to go is Austria. If you really think about it, Austrians were at least partially responsible for causing both world wars. The death of Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand caused the first, and I think we all know which Austrians started the second. Finally, last out is Andorra. They're the world's only sovereign co-principality, but neither of the princes are from Andorra itself. Instead, the 2 co-princes of the nation are the Bishop of Urgell and the President of France. Anyways, which country do you want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First nation eliminated is Portugal. Portugal is home to the Azores Islands, the westernmost point of the continent of Europe. But if we consider only mainland Europe, the westernmost point is at Cabo da Roca, also in Portugal. Next place out is San Marino. San Marino is famous for being the world's oldest republic, having been founded in the year 301. And with that, all hopes of a microstate winning have been crushed. Finally, last to go today is El Salvador. In 2021, they became the first country to accept Bitcoin as a legal tender. El Salvador is also the smallest country located on the mainland of the Americas. Anyways, which nations are you rooting for? World War II Battle Royale. First out today is Iraq. Home to Mesopotamia, also known as the cradle of civilization. Surrounded by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, this ancient civilization was one of the first, created around 5000 BC. Next nation out is Nicaragua. They're one of the many nations colonized by the Spanish, but they also were partially colonized by the British. For around 200 years, from the 17th to the 19th century, the Mosquito Coast existed as a protectorate of the British Empire. Finally, last eliminated is Argentina. Argentina is home to both the southern hemisphere's highest and lowest points. The highest is at Mount Aconcagua, while the lowest is at Laguna del Carbon. And which places do you want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First place out today is the Netherlands. They're part of the Low Countries, and they definitely deserve to be. With a quarter of its land area being below sea level, they've had a long and troubled history with the seas. Next nation eliminated is Yemen. As the owners of Socotra Island, they're the home of one of Earth's most unique trees. Native exclusively to the island, here you can find the dragon blood tree named after its blood red sap. And finally, last out is Iran. They're the largest Shia majority country and the birthplace of the ancient Zoroastrian religion. Iran can also claim to be the modern successor of the Persian Empire, being officially called Persia as recently as 1935. Nice, which places do you not want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First nation out is Paraguay. It's unique among former Spanish colonies as Spanish isn't the only widely spoken language. In addition to Spanish, the indigenous language of Guarani is widely spoken as well, with around 90% of Paraguayans speaking it. Next place out is Cuba. Yes, Fidel Castro did survive over 600 assassination attempts by the CIA. In fact, he actually managed to live to the ripe old age of 90, dying of natural causes. And finally, last out is Switzerland. We all know the Swiss for their neutrality, but when did they actually start being neutral? It goes back to the Congress of Vienna, where the Swiss signed a declaration affirming their perpetual neutrality. Anyways, which places do you want to win? World War II Battle Royale. First out today is South Africa. South Africa is the only country on the planet to have a total of 3 capital cities. Each serves as the capital of one branch of government, either executive, legislative, or judicial. Next place out is Ecuador. Ecuador's name comes from the fact they are located on the equator, being derived from the Spanish word for it. They also control the Galapagos Islands, which is home to Earth's largest tortoise species. And finally, last out is Uruguay. While we're on the topic of names, Uruguay comes from the Uruguay River, meaning river of painted birds. It's also the country of the continent's lowest, highest point, with it being a measly 513 meters above sea level. Anyways, who are you hoping will win? World War II Battle Royale. This time, first out is Turkey. Despite the country being mostly in Asia, the Turkish city of Istanbul is the most populated city in Europe. Turks also consume more tea per capita than any other nation, beating out even the British. Next eliminated is Honduras. They've been given the nickname Banana Republic, but where did it originate? The term was first used by American writer O. Henry in 1904 and describes an unstable nation dependent on the export of a finite resource. And last out is Peru. We often don't think of Peru when we think of potatoes, but they did in fact come from here. Originating in the Peruvian Andes, this starchy vegetable was first cultivated around 5000 BC. Anyways, which nation are you rooting for? World War II Battle Royale semi-finale. First out today is Ethiopia. They're the birthplace of everyone's favorite morning beverage, coffee. Well, to be specific, coffee beans originate from here. The first credible account of the drink being made actually dates back to 15th century Yemen. Next nation out is Italy. The Trevi Fountain in Rome is famed worldwide, and often tourists will throw coins into it. Combine these two things and you end up with 3,000 euros worth being tossed into it every day. And last out is Haiti. Despite occupying only a third of the island, Haiti actually has more people than the Dominican Republic. They, along with Canada, are also the only 2 countries in the Americas that have French as an official language. Always place your bets on which nation will win. World War II Battle Royale finale. Third place goes to Albania. They, along with Macedonia, control Lake Ohrid, one of the oldest lakes in Europe. With Albania now out, only 2 nations remain. It's the Belgians versus the Swedes, but only one can win. Now it's time to spin the wheel. And the last nation to be eliminated is Belgium. Well, there we have it. IKEA has beaten out the land of waffles. They've redeemed themselves from the